Hi, this is Kelly Tolman, and welcome to Literature Discussions. This time I'm going to talk about some of the ideas in Chapter 6 of Lord of the Flies. Chapter 6 begins with a description of a parachutist landing on the island. This is one of the main context clues we get about the overall setting of the story, about the world where the story takes place. There is a war going on, and this parachutist is a casualty of that war. The person has been killed after the chute deployed and has landed dead on top of the mountain. This parachutist, by the way, appears to be a response or an answer in some way to Ralph's prayers from Chapter 5. This is the beast from the air, as the title indicates. But just like the beast from the water, there isn't any real substance to the beast. Sam Narek, of course, mistake the parachutist for the beast and run back to the camp to report what they have seen. But the question here is, why did they make this mistake? What is it about our mind that can change our perception of an event? Psychologists have studied this extensively. For example, the Florida effect has been repeated in experiments. This effect demonstrates that when people are exposed to words that imply old age, that they will subsequently walk slower. In this passage, William Golding is thinking through how our minds might affect what we see. What kinds of experiences can you think of where people saw events differently? How might this affect society as a whole? One thing that we haven't talked about much so far in this series is institutions and institutional perceptions. Religions, governments, schools, and different organizations within these institutions all have different ways of approaching the world, different perceptions about the world and what is important. How might an institution, say a large journalism syndicate, approach a world event differently than another institution, such as a church? How might their different members see the event? What about those individuals who are part of both institutions? Nobody lives their life in a vacuum. Each of us is affected by the groups that we are part of, and in this chapter, this becomes quite clear. Sam Narek are both primed to see a beast, and so they see one. And then when they go back to the camp, the other boys argue not only from their personal perspectives, but also in relationship to and as reactions to the views of the other boys. The argument about the beast now takes a new turn. Now there is evidence to support the fact that a beast exists, although both Piggy and Simon still have doubts. Now that they have facts, action is called for. I think that this is one of the most interesting chapters in the book for several reasons. One reason is the author's use of dramatic irony. As an audience, we know full well that there is no beast on the mountain. Throughout the chapter, we feel like reaching out and shaking the characters and yelling at them that there is no beast. And we can only watch as they make a huge tangle of their situation because of their lack of knowledge. That is only one reason I enjoy this chapter. On another level, the author is making a statement about human nature. In the same way that the boys are going off to hunt a mythical beast for which they have no real evidence, to the point of being willing to risk their lives, we as humans do the same thing all the time. How often do we jump into action based on little or no knowledge? An easy example of this, and I don't want to pick on any one institution more than another because all of our institutions are guilty of this behavior, but an easy example is religion. In a religion, there is really no proof, right? In Christianity, for example, you can't prove or disprove Christ's divinity. It is something you just accept and allow to guide your life. You act on limited information. I could just as easily make the argument about political parties. These institutions have belief systems that are very difficult to prove and which seem to change over time without much reason. Although more difficult, the same argument can apply to many of our scientific institutions as well. And this can be seen in the many academic arguments that require more proof over time. Although each generation of scientists seems to think they have the answers, subsequent generations continue to show repeatedly that previous generations were simply acting on mistaken beliefs because of incomplete understanding. What I'm getting at is that in this chapter, the author is very cleverly demonstrating an aspect of human behavior that seems to be a fundamental part of who we are. The boys behave logically and consistently with their perceptions and beliefs. So, which beliefs do you hold that might someday be shown to be completely incorrect? Sorry, that is a trick question. The reality is that the question is really impossible to answer, or at least very difficult. It strikes at the very core of how we accept and interact with the world. After all, if you knew what you believed was to be incorrect, you wouldn't hold that belief. Another topic I would like to touch on is the Castle Rock. Early in the story, the boys encountered a mass of tumbled, broken rocks, but they didn't spend a great deal of time exploring it. Today, they decide to return and explore it more completely. This place now becomes officially Castle Rock, and some of the boys think that it is the perfect place for a fort. It is ideally situated for protection because it can only be approached by a narrow ledge, and the ledge can easily be defended by rolling the numerous boulders onto the ledge. Jack wants to build a fort there. He says, referring to a boulder, "Shove a palm trunk under that, and if an enemy came..." But what enemy is he talking about? The only people on the island are the boys, and up until this point, there are no enemies. So, who is he worried about? Or is he just wanting to be prepared? In either case, Jack's behavior is interesting because, again, it reflects common human behavior. Why do we build defenses? For many countries, national defense spending makes up a significant part of their overall spending package. For other countries, defense spending is a much smaller part of the budget. Why do you think this is? What is there that makes humans fear humans? There are a lot of interesting questions in Chapter 6, and of course I haven't even begun to talk about all of them. I do hope that you have found something interesting in today's discussion. And once again, thank you for tuning into Literature Discussions with Kelly Tolman. And be sure to check out all of my video and audio content at literaturediscussions.com. Thanks and good reading.